So one thing I noticed, it is on the other side, but there's also, as they're on the carousel, there's water being sprayed, and I'm guessing that's to clean before they put the milking machines on. So tell us a little bit about, what the workers here for cleanliness, because we want it clean here. That ensures clean milk for you and I to drink.
Yes. So because milk is one of nature's most perfect foods, we want to keep it that way. We want to harvest a high quality clean milk. And so some of the water that you're seeing is just to keep what we call the deck clean. We want to harvest that very nutritious milk in a clean way. And so that water is just making sure that it's clean. On the other side, we are preparing the udders for milking. So we're using it's called a germicide. It's an iodine. It's going to kill any germs on the cows. Think of a soap, basically. So we're going to prepare that udder, get that udder clean. Cows they're an animal, and so they tend to be a little bit dirty sometimes. They're out in an environment that's
sort of like small children.
Yes, yes. And so we need to clean that udder for them and make sure that we're harvesting clean milk. We also can do testing on a regular basis. So we can test the quality of the milk. Every time the milk leaves the farm, so we ship milk here every day, our truck driver is going to take a sample of milk. And when the milk gets to whatever processing plant it's going to, they're going to check that quality to make sure that the milk is of the highest quality. And if it's not, then it needs to be dumped down the drain. And then also we're testing each individual cow on a monthly basis. That just means we take a sample of milk from her udder, send it to a lab, and test the quality just to make sure that she still has the highest quality of milk in her.
So what are some of the things you're testing for when you run those?
No, that's a great question. So a few things. Number one, quality. It's called somatic cell count. So it's basically like a body cell, a white blood cell. And when that gets above a certain level, we know that the cow is sick. And so we're just testing that to make sure that she's not sick. We're testing for fat percent in her milk, protein percent in her milk, lactose percent, just to make sure that she is a healthy cow, still producing great milk, great nutritious milk.
And one unique thing about milk, and you can see behind us, they've started another round of milking.
Yes.
And that milk, once it goes, from the udder to the teat and into these pipes, I guess you call them, that they never see air again.
Yeah. No.
So tell us a little bit about the importance of that process and how that really affects food safety for the consumer.
I do actually think that's one of the coolest things. This is what I tell consumers, is that milk is never touched by human hands whatsoever. And I think that's really awesome. So from the time that we harvest milk, because we truly do harvest milk from cows, it's going to take 48 hours from the cow until it's on your shelf, ready to be in a fluid milk form. And so the unit harvests all of the milk. The units are cleaned 3 times a day right after milking. They are cleaned with detergent and acid and hot water and sanitizer just to keep the units clean. So the units will harvest the milk. The milk will go through what we call the pipeline and will be emptied into our bulk tank.
So when it comes out the cow, it comes through the system, it leaves the udder at about 102 degrees. We've got to get it chilled very quickly.
Yes.
What does that process look like, and what are these things behind me that helps run that process?
Certainly. So as we can step over here, the milk will come through our filter and our pipeline, and it will enter the plate chiller. And there is cool water running through our plate chiller, and so the milk will run through this plate chiller, will be cooled even more, will continue through the pipeline, and then will go into the refrigerated bulk tank where it will continually be cooled and will remain cool until the milk truck picks it up.
And all the while, it never sees the air. It is in a protected system that goes from the out of the teat straight here and into the tank, and then onto the trucker. So Dr. Spencer, one of the concerns a lot of consumers have, of course, you just talked about that food safety, but they also have some safety concerns, with hormones and antibiotics and things like that. And as a mom, is that something that I should be concerned about for my kids, or other moms out there should be concerned about?
Definitely not. Actually, as Barb mentioned, that it is tested. It's tested for antibiotic residues, any organisms that may be in it, and it will be dumped if any of those residues are in it. As for hormones, actually milk has very minute amounts of hormones. In our bodies, we actually produce more than what a cow's milk has in it. even males produce more hormones than what is in milk.
Very interesting. And so you mentioned that if that, anything is found, that milk has to be dumped. And when you say dumped, do you mean the whole tanker load usually?
The whole tank.
The whole tanker load, and we see those big trucks and we know how large those tankers are. What would be the economic impact to a dairy farmer if that happened?
So if it's just one dairy farm that they load up the entire truck, then it's just their responsibility. They lose close to $50,000 for one tank. But on top of that, if they go to multiple farms and one farm, that's why they take a sample at each farm, if one farm has antibiotic residues, the whole tank has to get dumped, and so they actually have to end up paying the farmers for their loss.
Wow. So, with that said, I don't think any dairy farmer, I know I wouldn't want to run that risk, and so therefore that stewardship of care is there, and safety for not only consumers but safety for their pocketbook, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Financial safety.
So they
sure.
wouldn't be as precautious
Right.
if it wasn't, it's a business and they care about the quality of this milk.
Great.